Hey guys, my name is Sullivan, and in today's video, I'm going to be taking you through my holy grail glute workout. This is the workout that has transformed my glutes from this to this. Throughout this video, I'll be going through the exact structure of my workouts, how many reps I do for each exercise, and all of the tips and tricks that I have learned to make the process of growing your glutes so much easier for you than it was for me. Let's go inside and get started with the workout. So this is my first time using a mic at the gym, so bear with me. Some of these exercises will be mic'd up and some will be voiceovered. But anyways, before every workout, but specifically before my leg days, I always begin with some form of dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching involves moving your body through the full ranges of motion for the exercises you're preparing to do during the session. It increases blood flow and mobility and also decreases risk of injury when you're lifting heavy. My dynamic stretching will last for around 10 minutes and will include movements such as a deep squat, lunges, hamstring stretches, knee circles, side lunges, and leg swings. It kind of depends on what my body is needing that day. Once I'm feeling warm and mobile, I will move into my first compound movement, which is always a hip thrust. This movement comes first for a couple reasons. Firstly, it's my most important exercise because it targets the glutes very effectively, and placing it first allows me to put all of the necessary energy into it. It also fires up and activates my glutes so that I can better use them in later exercises. And last but not least, it is my arch nemesis exercise, and I hate it so much that if I don't do it first, it will not happen. So as you can see, I use quite a low bench because I'm very short, and I also take off my shoes to do this exercise because it allows me to have better mind-muscle connection. For this exercise, we want to have our legs at a 90-degree angle and our body to be in a tabletop position, so do not choose a bench that is too high for you. Keep your chin tucked and your pelvis tucked under. I like to think about scooping under with my pelvis while pressing through my heels to come to a big glute squeeze at the top of the movement. After my set with no weight, I'll do a ramp up set with about 60 to 70% of my working weight. We never want to just jump straight into our top sets because we don't want to hurt ourselves. Okay, so I'm doing 8 cast glute bridges and then 4 full hip thrusts. So sometimes I'll do supersets like this because it allows me to challenge my muscles even more. So today I was doing 8 half reps, which are also called cast glute bridges, and you keep tension on the muscle for the entire movement, and 4 full reps to finish off the set. My low back was feeling a little tight, so I dropped the weight a little bit for my last back off set. After hitting 2 to 3 top sets, I'll typically do a final set at a slightly lighter weight to focus on engagement and really feeling that squeeze. All right, next up is going to be some RDLs with the barbell. I usually use the Smith machine, but today we're going to use the barbell because I'm a little socially awkward and I'm hiding in the corner right now. So first we're just gonna do a little warm-up set, take a step back and open my chest and press my shoulders down and squeeze my lats. So we're pushing the hips back, feel a stretch in the hamstrings, and then squeeze your glutes to come back up. For glute-focused RDLs, we don't need to be going super deep. We actually want to stop just beneath the knees because going further is usually the cause of back pain. To keep proper form for these, I pretend like I'm rolling a rolling pin down my legs while closing a car door with my bum. I keep my chin neutral and my chest open. If you struggle with feeling these in your glutes, try thinking about putting pressure through your heels and pinky toes down into the ground and then squeezing your glutes to return to the top of the movement like you would a hip thrust. It's normal to feel a little bit of back activation on these, but if your lower back is hurting, then it's time to lower the weight and focus a little bit more on form. I hope you can hear me okay, but I'm gonna add another 10. They are not playing good music today. The reason we use straps is because a lot of the time your lower body can lift a lot more than your upper body can. These might take a bit to master, but once you have them down, they will become a game-changing staple in your glutes and hamstrings days. I keep my sets heavy, but also very form-focused, between 8 and 12 reps with 2 to 3 top sets. Next up, we're gonna do some sumo dumbbell squats. For my third exercise of the day, I like to add in a squatting movement focused on more mind-muscle connection and higher reps. This will usually be a glute-focused leg press or these dumbbell sumo squats. For this exercise, I will obviously have a wide sumo stance and think about driving my knees apart and pressing into my pinky toes as I complete each rep, which will also keep your knees from caving. My chin is tucked, my shoulders are pressing down and back, and I'm hinged over and sitting back into my glutes. As I come up to the top of the movement, I'm engaging my glutes and keeping my upper body neutral. I never lock my knees out, as soft knees keep tension on the glutes and make sure that you don't injure yourself. For this exercise, I keep the reps pretty high, usually between 12 and 15. Okay, we are going to do some kickbacks right now. I brought my own ankle strap, so I'm just gonna put that on. Let me know if I'm in the way. Okay. We're gonna make it fairly light. I'm gonna step back with both feet, turn my base foot out to about 45 degrees, and then turn my kicking foot out about 15 degrees. I'm gonna hang on to preferably 2 holes like this, and we're gonna drive back with the heel and squeeze at the top. And the back down is gonna be slow, keeping a slight bend in the knee. We're initiating the movement from the glute. I'm gonna keep this pretty high rep. We're gonna do 12 to 15 reps. And think about engaging the kicking leg and not the base leg, but you will feel a little burn on the base leg. Cable kickbacks are an isolation movement focused on the glutes, so we want to focus way more on engagement and proper form than going overly heavy with weights. You want your upper body to just support yourself, not to create momentum, and it should stay basically completely stationary throughout the movement. Think about sitting back into your hips, flexing your kicking leg, and feeling a big squeeze in your kicking glute at the top. Your chin should be tucked and relaxed, and you should be keeping your eyes on the ground. 2 to 3 sets of this exercise and 12 to 15 reps. So we're keeping a pretty high rep. I know some of you are craning your necks to look in the mirror, but if we want bigger glutes, we gotta stop that habit and tuck the chin for proper form. Since this is also a unilateral movement, I usually place this exercise second to last in my workout. When I'm doing hamstring curls on my heavy glutes and hammies day, I use the seated hamstring curl and I scoot the seat all the way in because I'm super short, and I scoot the footrest all the way in too because I'm super short. And I want to hit around 12 to 15 reps. I'm gonna have my feet be slightly externally rotated, and I want this to go as tight as possible onto my legs. So I'm gonna press it all the way down and lock it in as tight as possible. I want you to be scooted all the way back into the seat, and we're gonna drive the heels into the back of the legs and squeeze and hold for a second. And then we're gonna go slow on the eccentric back up to the top. You're gonna feel a little stretch, and then squeeze, hold, squeeze. Slow on the way back up. I like to train hamstrings along with glutes because I find that they make the legs look very proportionate and defined, and they have lots of exercises in common. This is like a bicep curl, but for your hamstrings. And I always do seated on my first glutes and hamstrings day because I feel more of a squeeze, and then I do lying on my second one. I totally lost count of my reps again. Squeeze. And this doesn't have to be that heavy to be challenging. And make sure that you're resting between sets, because if you want to see real gains and you want to see real muscle growth, you have to be resting. I rest for at least 2 to 3 minutes between sets, because how are you expecting to push weight if you're not resting? This isn't cardio. Make sure that you're always keeping a soft knee though. We do not want to let this machine make us hyperextend. So as I'm pressing this down, I'm also bringing my legs down slightly so I don't lock out my knees. So I'm stopping at a soft knee. Okay, this is too heavy for me. I'm gonna go down because I wanna be able to engage properly. Never feel embarrassed or bad for going down in weight. The goal is engagement for this. The goal is not going too heavy. Okay, we're done. That is my last exercise for the day, so now I'm gonna go and stretch and do some cardio. We're gonna do a little cool down, and I know that we all know how important cool downs are, but I know that we also do not do them as often as we should. I cannot remember the last time I brought a mat into the studio, but we're doing it today. Static stretches are basically when you hold a stretch, and you wanna do these at the end of your workout because it's going to help with recovery, and you don't need to be doing moving stretches at the end of your workout because we don't really need to get get blood flowing, because we have already had a lot of blood flowing in this workout. While recovering and stretching might not seem like it directly impacts your results, which is kind of why I spent many years not recovering and not spending as much time on stretching as I should have, it inadvertently really does affect your results, because if we don't recover properly, then we're gonna hurt ourselves and we can't keep training. And I find that when I properly warm up and do dynamic stretching before my training, I am able to lift heavier because the weight doesn't feel quite as heavy, and I'm able to do that with better recovery and with no joint pain. I used to have a lot of knee and hip pain when I would squat, but now that I've been doing just a 10-minute warm up and most of the time a 10-minute cool down, I have hardly any joint pain. I'm just able to lift a lot more. I have better recovery, so don't be skipping your warm ups. My hips are so tight. Especially when we're lifting really heavy weights, we want to recover because we want to be able to keep lifting heavy weights, and we want to be able to exercise when we are a little bit older with creaky joints. So make sure that you are doing your warm-ups and doing your cool downs. This feels so good too. Like whenever I actually do my cool downs, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. Why don't I do this more often? And also I find that flexibility helps a lot with weight training, because having mobile joints, having mobile hips helps so much when you're doing squats, lunges, when you're doing any of that. Let's talk a little bit about cardio. So depending on the day, I will either do Stairmaster or I will do incline treadmill. I'm not gonna tell you that cardio will directly impact your glute growth positively. If you do a cardio form like incline walking, it's not necessarily gonna grow your glutes, but regardless of whether you're trying to grow mass or lose fat, it's important to do a little bit of cardio. That doesn't even have to be anything crazy. It can be 15 minutes of Stairmaster. It can be 30 minutes of incline walking. Also, I definitely find that doing cardio like the Stairmaster helps me engage my glutes when I'm doing other exercises, because I really focus on my heels and I focus on engaging as I walk up the stairs. So beyond that, kind of more about personal preference as to whether you do incline walking or Stairmaster or low intensity running. I used to love the stairs, but now I'm a little bit more of an incline walking girly. But also don't cheat the movement. Like if you're on the treadmill and you're grabbing onto the handles and leaning back, it like defeats the whole purpose. So like take advantage of the movement. When I'm on the stairs, I'm not gonna be hanging on like this or like leaning over like this, because that like totally removes the whole point of the exercise. Look at your feet to balance. Make sure to press your heels into the platforms and really think about engaging your glutes as you walk up the stairs. If you fully can't keep your breath, lower the level. It's totally okay to be at a very low level on this, just focusing on one step after the next. This is basically the glute workout that I have been doing since I began lifting, and it is the workout that I credit with all of my results alongside nutrition. Nutrition plays a very big role in glute growth as well. I have gone through 2 serious building phases, which was when I ate in a caloric surplus, which means I was eating more calories than I burned for a prolonged period of time. So during that time, I would just really focus on fueling my muscles and gaining muscle, and I also gained a little bit of fat in the process, obviously. But then after that, I would go through a cutting phase, and then I would lose the fat but maintain the muscle. So keep in mind that if you are eating in a caloric deficit or you are eating at maintenance, you will not necessarily see the results that you are looking for from a workout like this. It's also very important that you're eating nutritious, high protein foods and prioritizing a healthy diet alongside training, because diet does make up around 80% of results. You will also have to make sure that you are implementing progressive overload. So progressive overload means that gradually over time, you are making the workouts more difficult in some way. This can be adding reps, adding a little bit of weight. It can be literally a 2.5 pound plate, adding more time under tension, which means that you just hold the movement at the contraction for a little bit longer. Your body does not know the weight that you're lifting, so there are lots of different ways that you can add intensity. The most important thing is that you are adding intensity, because if you're just doing the same workout with the same intensity week after week after week, you're not going to see the muscle growth that you're looking for, because muscle responds to a stimulus and then repairs, and that's how you actually get the muscle growth. Alongside that, you want to make sure that you're sticking with the same exercises for at least 4 to 6 weeks to actually see this improvement, because if you're constantly changing up your workouts, you're not going to see the results that you're looking for. Pick your exercises and stick with them. And I also structure my workouts in a specific way. So this is one of the things that actually took me a long time to learn. I always put my compound movements first in my workout. That's because compound movements are the most physically taxing. They're very taxing on your central nervous system, and they also take the most effort to do. So you want to do those first so you can actually give them as much intensity as they deserve. And then after that, we're going to do the unilateral or single leg movements. These are really good for evening out muscle imbalances and focusing on balance. And then at the end of the workout, we are going to do our isolation movements. So these are going to be movements that target a very specific muscle, such as kickbacks, hamstring curls, bicep curls, etc. And that's because these are good for just burning out that little muscle, and they don't take as much effort and they don't take as much energy to accomplish. If you have any questions, make sure to comment them down below and I will respond to them, because I want this to be very clear for you guys and for you to understand every part of my workout. So I hope you enjoy it.